You can pick. You can either take the economic punch now, or the little bit of money you left in your pocket will become worthless. Rather harsh words to welcome you to this Business 7, but thank you very much for joining us in any case. In this program, we will look at the Bank of Namibia's governor, Johannes Gouwegab, who did not mince his word in a speech this morning. And then also later on, we will be talking to Salamo Hay. He is going to reflect on the potential in agriculture and construction. And to end the program off, we will take a look at the IMF's dissection of the impact of shipping costs globally.
Connection. It's in the human touch, the feeling of belonging. It inspires us and empowers us, creates clarity from complexity. It starts new conversations, unlocks the power of advice, and makes an impact on your life. At Alex Forbes, we pioneer insight to provide you with advice that connects your decisions of today to your impact tomorrow.
It is the perfect storm. That is how the governor of the Bank of Namibia, Johannes Gouwegab, this morning described Namibia's economy in a speech he delivered in Okavango East. Now, Gouwegab said that this was not due to internal factors, but to the entire global development in terms of COVID, the Ukraine war, etc., etc. We're going to listen to what the governor had to say in his very outspoken way. Just a heads up, we do apologize for the quality of this clip as we took it from his Facebook live stream.
What's happening with the oil price? Or when you have got a financial shock like we had in 2008, 2009, when a company like Lehman Brothers went under. And remember, you have got a demand shock, you have got a financial shock, you have got a supply shock. What COVID did, COVID delivered all of those into a single package. And that's what we are seeing today. So it's not only one shock that we are dealing with. It's not a shock that has been caused by the government mismanaging the economy or us doing something irresponsible. COVID has delivered all those shocks that I'm talking about into a single package. We have got a hit from outside at this point in time. It's nothing to do how we, as Namibians, as a government, are managing the economy, or that as someone is being reckless. The cost of living challenges that you are seeing today is a hit from outside. We are dealing with external shocks. We have got an exogenous shock on top of the exogenous shocks we have in the system already. So if you can understand that, I want to rebut that narrative that there is some mismanagement, the economy going on. It's not at all. So that's why I'm explaining where this is coming from. And we're going to get another shock coming again. After COVID, we thought we are out of this. We're going to get another shock that's approaching. And that is a shock that's going to introduce by tightening of financial conditions as central banks aim to contain the runaway inflation. So you see inflation in the advanced economies. Even in America, we've got inflation at 9%. In the UK and England, we've got inflation at 8%. In Germany, we've got inflation at 8%. This morning, we got figures that in South Africa, inflation jumped from 6.5% in May to about 7.4%. So what do you think central banks like the Bank of Namibia will be doing? Their job is to make sure that we contain inflation so that inflation doesn't run away. And if we do this, what we are doing is we're going to tighten financial conditions. And when we tighten financial conditions, we are actually slowing economic growth. So as we are getting out of COVID, now we have got a financial tightening that's happening. Over the short term, we're going to get pain, but that's the right thing for the long term. If we don't do that now, the money that you have got in your pocket now that's being eaten away by inflation is going to be worthless. So we have to take this pain, fellow Namibians, so that over the medium to long term, we have got a proper foundation to work from, and we make sure that the incomes and the value of your currency is protected. If we don't do that, you will accuse us because you're going to say to have money that's useless, that's worthless. We'll have inflation expectations totally de-angered. The economic agents will be totally in a disarray. They just do what they want to. That's what we have to, why we have to take the pain. COVID-19 and its variants, the crisis in Ukraine, and the associated supply chain disruptions render the current times uncertain. Current times are very uncertain. We are not clear whether COVID is over and how long COVID will be around. That's not caused by anyone in government. We don't know how long the war in Ukraine is going to rage. That's not caused by anyone in Namibia. We are not clear what other possible external shock may emerge apart from the financial condition that I'm talking about because the central banks are going to tighten this. We don't know. What we know is that we are in a shock-prone world. And it is important that we build an economy that's resilient as a nation. We shouldn't focus too much on what divides us, but on what unites us, because these are difficult times. And this difficulty from an economic point of view is not caused by internal factors. It's a hit from outside. Right. Let me try and talk about the global economy. And in 2020, do I have any? Okay, maybe.
You know, a few weeks ago, I would never do this on a Saturday morning. Back then, I was standing in line all day. Now it's just like that.
You are using the FNB banking app like I told you.
Girl, it saved my weekend. Now I can do all my banking on this.
Payments, transfers, checking statements.
Even opening accounts. Just like that. Oh, did I tell you what my husband did?
Even me, I want to save time with the, what's the name of the app?
FNB app.
Don't be left behind. Make the switch to the FNB app, online banking or cell phone banking, and change the way you bank to change your life. FNB, how can we help you?
The World Bank recently released their latest country diagnostic report on Namibia. Now, in it, they touch on housing and, by implication, on construction, as well as agriculture, and in particular, what they refer to as climate green agriculture. Local economist Salem Hay takes a look at this report and he puts it into context.
Again, the diagnostic report speaks about construction sector as a basis for potential new growth, right? Now, construction is a function of demand to the extent that you need to have off-takers that can buy these houses. They need to have affordability, and and affordability that comes through personal disposable income. Now, if you have a situation that we have and the huge declines that the economy underwent through COVID and the job losses that came as a consequence of that, it means that you could invest in construction, right? And at the end of the day, you might not have off-takers. So that would be akin to being all dressed up and know where to go. So one need to be careful in terms of what are these sort of diagnostic reports implying. If you also look at the timing of the diagnostic report and what Fitch downgraded the DBN recently, where Fitch makes the point that the Incorporation Act of DBN make provision for a minority shareholder being taken up by private. And it goes further in saying that there's no international developmental financial institution that's coming to take up any shareholding in DBN. So there are certain nuances that we need to understand as we read these reports, because we must understand the dynamics within the Namibian economy and use it as a basis on how we grow the economy. I think it speaks about smart climate agriculture, right, as a basis for growth. Now, I don't know whether we are advanced or ready to move towards smart climate agriculture in Namibia, but we are definitely ready to move towards the agriculture sector becoming a point of conversation in the Namibian economy because of its labor-intensive capacity. And given that we've got a huge unemployment rate of not highly sophisticated skill set, right? So we could invest in agriculture where we are able to do the basics before we move towards the smart climate agriculture. And I don't think that we've been able to do the base agriculture, if it were. Obviously, we've got huge demand for Namibian live cattle that we are exporting. And we've got huge demand for Namibian beef across the globe. You know that we've got the quota to Norway. We also have now the Chinese market that's open, and we have not been able to fill all those quotas. So the thinking then is to say, why don't we invest in those sectors because of the needs of the Namibian economy and use it as a basis to then develop towards smart climate partnership, because then you would have built the necessary efficiencies to be able to move to the smart climate agriculture. So obviously the diagnostic report has got its own recommendations, which need to be read in that context. But the reality is that we need to move towards practical steps for the Namibian economy in terms of the challenges that is within the economy, and not necessarily use a template of an advanced economy to develop the Namibian economy.
Every day, you make choices that make you legendary. Journey together with us on the path to securing your legacy as a member of the League of Legends. With the Select Platinum Bundle Fee Premium Bank offering, you will access tools that will enable you to thrive. If you earn 850,000 Namibian dollars per annum or more, you can apply for this offering today via bankventug.com.na for only 447 Namibian dollars per month. Bank Ventug, a member of Capricorn Group.
It can take up to a year for increased shipping and freight costs to filter through to the inflation of a particular country. This is the finding of the International Monetary Fund, And we're going to play out this program with this video by the institution. Until next week, the same time, goodbye.
International trade takes place on the world's oceans, but the pandemic disrupted it, just as it did most other aspects of our lives. Ships lined up for miles, anchored just off the coast, waiting to bring their cargo into port. This has been a scene throughout the pandemic. Our infrastructure struggling to keep up with pent-up demand as people return to shops. Port workers, sailors, and truck drivers unable to work because of public health restrictions or because they're sick themselves. Besides causing delays in getting goods to consumers, the cost of getting them there went through the roof. I'm Jan Carrier-Swallow from the International Monetary Fund.
And I'm Daniel Jimenez. As those ships set at anchor, the images we all saw raise some questions for us. How can we quantify the impact of rising shipping costs on global inflation, and how persistent are these effects?
Before the pandemic, shipping a 40-foot container on a major intercontinental trade route cost around $1,300. But over the course of the pandemic, we've seen that amount go up and up and up to over $10,000. That's a 7-fold increase.
Even before this massive increase, we normally spend quite a lot on freight costs. Consider that countries spend on average about 38% of their GDP on importing goods, and about 7.5% of that value on shipping them. By studying data for 143 countries over the past 30 years, we found that when those shipping costs double, inflation rises by 0.7 percentage points. Based on the increase in shipping costs we saw in 2021, our research suggests this could increase global inflation by about 1.5 percentage points this year.
We also investigated the mechanisms between freight costs and what we pay at the cash register. When shipping costs go up, right off the bat, goods that are unloaded from ships cost more at the dock. Within a couple of months, those costs get passed on to local producers, who need those items from overseas to make their own stuff at home. But it takes about a year until that increase works its way through supply chains, and you finally see the full impact on the retail prices that consumers pay at the store.
Take a look at how that compares to other global shocks we are used to worrying about, like oil or food prices. You see that global prices react right away when the price of a barrel of oil goes up, and that a spike in global food prices rises inflation for about 7 months. Then, that the slow buildup of inflation you get after a rise in shipping costs, which peaks almost a full year later.
Now, you may be thinking that these freight costs just go up when the economy's booming, so that freight costs aren't the true culprit for the high inflation. There are many drivers of inflation, and demand can certainly affect the cost of freight. So to make sure that we could isolate the impact of shipping costs on inflation, we studied disruptions in the Suez Canal.
About 30% of global container traffic travels through the Suez Canal, and finding an alternate route adds unexpected costs and thousands of miles onto a ship's itinerary.
We looked at 3 recent closures of the canal. Who could forget the most recent episode just last year when the Ever Given container ship blocked the canal for 6 days? Now, bad weather and navigational errors are truly unfortunate events for the sailors involved. But as economists, we like them for what they're not. They aren't caused by strong demand. Following each of these closures, we saw a significant increase in the Baltic Dry Index, which measures the price paid to transport dry bulk materials across the world's oceans. And over the following year, you guessed it, inflation picked up.
Rising shipping costs drive inflation around the world, but not all countries are affected equally. Low-income countries are those that tend to pay the highest freight cost and are those who can least afford them. And more remote countries, particularly island states, see much larger impacts. We also find that countries with historically strong monetary policy frameworks see much smaller secondary effects on inflation, with freight costs not triggering higher wages.
We can't say exactly when shipping costs will come back down to earth. Some ports seem to be normalizing, but the disruptions related to the war in Ukraine are straining supply chains further.
With shipping costs still running extremely high, the pressure they're putting on global inflation will probably continue to build well into the second half of this year. Our research suggests that even once global shipping fleets have returned to normal, the inflationary effects of freight costs will continue to spread in their wake.
While Namibia and its cities are seen as one of the cleanest countries in Africa, plastic pollution is a big problem. Therefore, it's up to each of us to do what we can to reduce the use of plastic, especially single-use plastic bags. At Liberty Life Namibia, we've taken the decision to turn all our old branding items into reusable shopping bags. It's a way in which we can drive sustainability and look after our most important stakeholder, our environment. If you also believe in sustainability and would like more information, please get in touch. Liberty Life Namibia. In it with you.
In Business 7, you get news on current economic, financial, and business matters in Namibia. The weekly show features interviews with experts and in-depth analysis of burning issues in a way that caters for ordinary Namibians and business connoisseurs alike. We crunch the numbers that matter, decipher statistics that shape Namibian lives, discuss smart money, and explore the impact of global developments locally. Money makes the world go round, so catch us on NTV, oneup2.com, and the Facebook platforms of Namibian Sun, Republikane, Algemeine Zeitung, and Namibia Media Holdings. For news-related or advertising queries, please contact B7 at synergy.com.na.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, welcome to another exciting edition